tally-ho, my old man's a mushroom, etc, etc. Welcome to another Mordian Glory video. In today's episode, we are going to be doing a deep dive of the British Commonwealth in Konflikt 47. Without a doubt, this faction has been the one that has been most requested for me to cover as part of this series. And I have now played a few games with the British. And I can say, oh boy, I really like them. I don't know if they're the most powerful faction in the game, but they are certainly one that absolutely passes the vibe check and are a ton of fun to play and pilot. And so, without further ado, I'm really excited. I can't wait any longer. Let's fix bayonets! Over the top, give Jerry a damn good thrashing, and charge right into this thing. You there, are you sick of languishing at home with nothing to do, wanking, eating expensive German biscuits and just generally wasting your life? Well, I have got the solution for you. Warlord Games is now the proud sponsor of the Mordian Glory channel, and they have given me an affiliate link. By clicking on that link down in the description below, you'll be able to get yourself some fantastic World War II bolt action miniatures. These finely detailed models are the perfect way of finding yourself a hobby that will finally get you out of the masturbatorum.
I'll make that deal. How about you? You make that deal?
I'd make that deal.
Damn good deal.
So what are you waiting for? Click on the affiliate link down below, support the channel, and get off the sofa. As is tradition, let's begin today's video with a brief overview of what the British Commonwealth are all about. How do they play? What is the vibe of the faction? The lore for the Brits is simple. They are tired. They've been fighting this war for a very long time, and every part of the Commonwealth has seen its manpower and resources stripped to try and win this epic conflict. But unlike the Soviet bloc, the British are either unable or unwilling to throw endless amounts of manpower at the war to try and win it. Instead, they have turned to their ingenuity and they have begun to Wallace and Gromit their way into a tactical and strategic advantage in this war. And so what started as Hobart's funnies in World War II has evolved rapidly with the opening of the rifts. And the Brits are one of the more technologically advanced factions in the setting. They have got walkers, they have got mechs, they have got power armor, and they have got rift weapons like Tesla. But what really separates the British from every other faction is their unique developments into AI, computational systems. And they have begun to replenish their manpower with robots. And it is with this new generation of soldiers, one not born in a hospital, but made on the factory floor, that the British have regained the initiative, regained the power, and are striding forth once again with great confidence. But how does this all translate onto the tabletop? In-game, the Brits are a very methodical faction, marching across the table inexorably and laying down incredible levels of firepower. Even one automated infantry squad can have as much firepower as an entire platoon of conventional soldiers. And the weakest robot is as tough as a conventional soldier in power armor. And thanks to the Brits putting automated targeting systems in a lot of their vehicles, they're not even a particularly slow faction. A lot of British vehicles can move and shoot without penalty, which is a really big bonus in this game. So the British units are very capable, but they do have some very important weaknesses and downsides. Firstly, they're very points intensive. The British Army can be a very elite force on the tabletop. And you get what you pay for, a lot of premium units, but if one of those units dies, it can be like you've had a crutch kicked out from underneath you, especially considering that many of the British robots rely upon command and control nodes to actually work effectively. A bunch of Mark 1 British robots is nowhere near as effective if they haven't got some Mark 2 robots leading them forward. Your opponent will know that, they'll identify that, and they will seek to take those command robots out. If they do, you might find your forces' effectiveness dropping off quickly in-game. Overall, the Brits feel like a combined arms faction. You need to bring all the different elements together to make them sing. When everything is in place, the British can be unstoppable. They can be deadly. But if your opponent knows what to target, they can take you apart piece by piece. That's a very high-level overview of the Brits, but now let's get down into the nitty-gritty detail, starting with the army rules. First up, we've got the note on incorporating bolt action units into Konflikt 47. You can have any bolt action unit you want in Konflikt 47. The guideline from Warlord is that both players should agree, or if it's a tournament, then the tournament should specify whether they allow them or not, and some TOs do and some TOs don't, and that really they should be taken as late war units, because obviously Konflikt 47 is taking place in 1947, so having a bunch of really early war units might feel out of place. The golden rule with incorporating bolt action units, and I've said this in every single one of these faction-focused videos, is don't be gamey. The idea about bringing bolt action units in is to help you add more flavor to your force, to have a Churchill AVRE fighting alongside some robots, something like that, right? If you start looking at the bolt action units and think, I can use this to cheese my way to victory, you're doing it wrong, and it's just not the spirit of the game and the spirit of this rule. Long story short, use as much bolt action stuff as you want. Use it as a basis for a whole army. Use it to season your force however you feel, but just don't be a cheesy bastard. Use it to bring fun to the tabletop. With all that said, now let's get into the special rules, beginning with computational systems. Some Commonwealth vehicles feature smaller crews in favor of automated assistance capable of keeping weapons on target while maneuvering. British Commonwealth units with this special rule ignore the -1 to hit penalty for moving and shooting. Units must have the special rule indicated in their unit profile to benefit from it. I'm not going to lie to you, this is one of the most powerful rules in the British Army and in Konflikt 47 in general. Being able to move and shoot without penalty just lets you become so much more accurate than every other faction out there. Every other army has to choose between staying still and shooting effectively and moving and suffering a -1 to hit penalty. The British don't have to do that. They can just move and shoot and maintain full accuracy. Now, that might not seem like such a big deal, especially if you're shooting at longer range where everyone hits on 4s, right? But what about when you get into point blank range? This is when this ability just goes to the moon. If you get into point blank range with a British unit that has moved, that has computational systems, it's going to hit on a 2+. And considering that even a basic squad of Mark 1 infantry, 5 robots with MMGs, can put out 30 shots. If you give them HMGs, they get 30 shots at pen +1. It is a deadly, a withering hail of firepower that the Brits can shove into your face. I could sit here glazing computational systems all day, but I think it'll start making more sense when we get into the units that can benefit from it a bit later on. So for now, we'll move on to the next special rule, automated recovery. Some Commonwealth automated systems are advanced enough that they can quickly step in should a vehicle's crew become temporarily incapacitated, enabling them to more swiftly get back into action. When rolling on the vehicle damage tables against British Commonwealth vehicles that are Rift units, ignore crew stunned results. The damage has no effect other than the normal pin marker inflicted for being successfully hit by a ranged weapon. This is a powerful army ability. Crew stunned means that normally you take an extra pin and you go down, and basically if you haven't activated that turn, you actually miss out on your vehicle going that turn. And missing out on a whole turn is a big deal. But it's a little limited because there aren't all that many Rift vehicles in the British roster. You've got things like the Merlin and the Tesla Cromwell and the Percival, but there's a lot of good vehicles the Brits have which don't benefit from this, like the Guardian and especially the Hornet, which is an amazing vehicle, amazing walker. So it's very good. It definitely will save your ass on several occasions, but it's slightly limited on who it affects. Next up is Keep Calm, lads. Though diminished by the ongoing conflict and the newfound nightmares therein, the plucky British spirit endures. Each time a British infantry unit on a down order receives a pin marker, roll a d6. On the roll of a 4+, immediately discard it. If it would receive multiple pin markers at once, roll for each separately. This is a deceptively decent ability, but it depends on how you're intending to build your army. If you're taking a bunch of robots, you don't care about this because your robots are fearless, so they can't take pins anyway and they can't go down. But if you're leaning into a lot of the regular infantry, this is very nice to have, especially combined with guts. If your opponent shoots at, let's say, some Grenadiers or some Galahads, you could go down in some heavy cover and be like a 2-up save, and any pins that they choose to put on you, you can potentially get rid of on a 4+, meaning that your unit is more likely to obey orders when its time comes. If you then, towards the end of the turn, guts your dice back into the bag, and then when you redraw it, activate the unit, it will be much more likely to do what it needs to do because it's going to have less pins on it. So it can be quite a good way of getting some durability onto a unit and still having it be effective later on. Finally, we have superior code breaking. Though coded radio signals are continually becoming ever more complex, Bletchley Park's computational advances have continued to revolutionize the art of code breaking. Once per game at the start of any game turn, a British Commonwealth player may choose a die to draw from the dice bag rather than draw randomly. If the order is issued to an officer, it may not be used to initiate a snap to action ability. If there is more than one British Commonwealth player and they decide to use this ability at the same time, roll off. The winner may make use of this ability, the loser must wait for a future turn to enact their plans. Frankly, when used at the right time, this could be a game-winning ability. At the vital moment, when the game hangs in the balance, and you need that first dice, bang, superior code breaking. Maybe you have the opportunity to deliver the killing blow, maybe turn 4, turn 5. Like, if I can just get this, I can secure the victory. Bang, you've got it. Maybe it's looking like the game could go badly. But if you just get the first dice, you might be able to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. Bang, superior code breaking. The only downside to this ability is going to be the player's mentality. Because I know what we're all like. We're all the kind of players that like to hoard the health potions until the end of the video game and then end the game with 200 health potions that you never ended up using just in case. You're going to have to overcome that instinct, and being able to use superior code breaking at exactly the right time is going to be a skill in of itself that British players will need to develop. That just about covers the army special rules, and how I would sum them up is computational systems is very good and superior code breaking can be very good. The other two are quite limited and specific, but when they do pop up, they'll probably be somewhat impactful. Now let's get into the units, beginning with the HQ teams. The British get standard company commanders in Galahad armor, and they get platoon commanders in Galahad armor. Personally, I recommend sticking with platoon commanders rather than taking the company commander, and I've got 3 reasons for you. Firstly, we've got the in-game points cost. Brit units are already pretty pricey, and you don't really have the points in the budget to get all the robots and stuff that you need and then also get the company commander. Secondly, British units don't really benefit all that much from their officers. They can do if you're going down the more human infantry, but if you're going down the robot route, you don't need them because you have got Fearless on your robots. So you don't need the morale bonus from the company commander to get your guys to do what they need to do. Finally, because Brit armies tend to be quite elite, doing a big snap 2 with a company commander, snap 2ing 4 units is a very risky maneuver. Bolt action, Konflikt 47, it's not like Warhammer 40k, where you want to have I go, you go. Often in bolt action, and especially in Konflikt 47, you want to not have a flurry of dice at the beginning of the turn. You want to sometimes want your opponent to go a bit first. And that's because you want them to try and expose themselves. They have to do their actions on their units, and you can kind of respond to that, see what they're going to do. If you take a company commander, snap to 90% of your army and then go, you might do a big bit of damage, or you might just end up with a bunch of units which are exposed, which then get counter hit and it goes badly. With all that in mind, let's stick to platoon commanders and have a look at the 2 options we've got. And for me, there's 2 really easy ways of running your platoon commanders. If you're taking a normal one, not in power armor, take him as cheap as possible. And I would say give him a point of guts. This is the platoon commander you're going to have, maybe leading an artillery platoon, maybe a second assault platoon. Maybe it's one that you're just going to have sitting back and just with a cheeky point of guts. But this is the support platoon commander. He's not on the front line. He's sat there with his cheeky point of guts. You've taken him as a bit of a tax, and he's also an extra dice to have in the bag. The other approach is the polar opposite. Not cheap as chips, but you actually make your officer a genuinely good unit. Take him in Galahad heavy armor, take him veteran, give him the heavy Tesla rifle, so he's actually got a rift gun and he gets a rift dice then, which is cool, and give him 2 extra mates to follow him around, make them veteran as well, give them LMGs, and I would say put a point of guts on him. That's what I would do. And that officer has got enough firepower to actually be a meaningful unit, and he's got enough durability where hopefully if he does get hit, he can actually take that hit, being damage value 6 as a veteran in power armor. Whether you're going for a regular platoon commander or a Galahad platoon commander, I would suggest taking Guts on them at every opportunity, because Guts is one of the best abilities in the game. You don't really need Rift Mastery because the Brits don't have a huge amount of Rift weapons. You'll have the occasional Tesla weapon floating around. Quick side note on optional upgrades, I wouldn't give this bozo any optional upgrades, but I would strongly consider giving the platoon commander Stubborn and Preams. Preams are basically Panzerfaust. I would only add these on at the end of the list if you have the points available, because it will be 18 points on a 3-man squad for those upgrades. But the Stubborn will make your officer less likely to shit himself if he loses both of his buddies, which would be bad. And the preams actually give you a little bit of punch to go with that Tesla rifle. That covers the officers. Now let's get to the support characters, starting with the medic. And this is either an auto-include or it is shelf tier. There's no in between. If you're taking robots, never take a medic. If you are taking lots of grenadiers and other standard infantry, which can actually benefit from the medic, then I would say pop them in, especially if you're doing grenadier spam. As for the forward observers, these are okay. But I would always go for the artillery observer over the Air Force observer. And the reason for this is there is a lot of flak in Konflikt 47. And it only takes 3 successful flak hits to drive off your plane. It might be 3 or 4, but it doesn't take a lot at all. Considering every mech who's got like an arm gun could use it as flak, it's just kind of mental, right? So I probably wouldn't bother with the Air Force forward observer. The artillery forward observer is a different shout though. Considering that Konflikt is played at 1,500 points, there's a little more wiggle room to include someone like this. However, normally all artillery ends up doing is splashing a load of pins everywhere. And if you're facing someone with a lot of fearless units, that's not a very helpful ability to have. So it's a nice to have, it's an optional extra, but it's certainly not an auto-include. Then we get into the infantry corps. Every day in the corps, it's like a day on the farm. Every meal a banquet, every paycheck a fortune, formation a parade. I love the corps. As always, we have the basic infantry squad choice, and for the Brits, this is the Rifle Squad. These are essentially your bolt-action-esque infantry, which can be ported into Konflikt 47. Because of units like this, the whole using bolt-action units or not really sort of is a bit of a moot point, I always feel, because 99% of infantry choices for bolt action can essentially be emulated using the Rifle Squad. They are a generic unit that can be specified and tailored to be whatever you want, whether it's Marines or whether it's Paras or whether it's just regular infantry, whether it's Home Guard. The Rifle Squad is essentially a very flexible template that you can customize to build the standard basic infantry of your dreams. However, despite its flexibility, I do think there is one ideal loadout for this unit. And I think that is a 6-man squad with engineers and a flamethrower. Maybe you chuck 3 rifle grenades in there as well. The reason I recommend this loadout is because there is a lot of damage value 7+ units out there, like the aforementioned Style Trooper. And if you load up on SMGs and assault rifles and LMGs, you might have a lot of upgrades that can't actually damage the unit you're facing off against. If you have infantry flamethrowers, then that means the opponent has to respect this squad. Because Style Trooper, for example, aren't fearless. They can be made fanatics, and sometimes people do. But if they're not, your infantry can actually punch up against that Style Trooper unit. Now, they're going to have to get close to use that flamethrower, but still, it gives them a weapon that can actually do something. And if you're facing off against Shrek Wolfen or Ursus, units which are damage value 7 with hard to kill, flamethrowers ignore cover. So if you get the hit, you've got a decent chance of penning them, because I believe flamethrowers are pen +2, and then they are only going to get the hard to kill save, not the super duper cover save they get from being a hard to kill unit in something like heavy cover. In a similar vein of thinking, you've got the rifle grenades. They are indirect fire and they've got pen +1. They're probably going to end up hitting on 6s because either you're moving forward to get the flamer into range or the enemy's moving towards you. But still, they're indirect fire, they hit on 6s, they've got pen +1, and they ignore cover because of indirect fire. So it's long odds on those rifle grenades. I'm not going to lie to you. It's long odds, but it's a weapon that can actually do something. If you're not convinced by the rifle grenades, and I totally get it, the other route that I would go would be preams. Giving your low-level squad 60 points, the flamethrower that makes them 90 points, and then you give them the preams that makes them 120 points. You got a 6-man unit which has got good boom from the preams and it's got decent boom from the flamethrower. I will say that it's a disposable unit. By the time you've got into flamethrower and pream range, you're probably only going to get 1 pop before you get eaten. Or you get 1 chance to kill the enemy. So if you are going to take those preams, I'd pretty much always let them all off. Do the whole D6 and generate as many as you can before you go down. It's a bit of a brutal way to approach your infantry, but desperate times call for desperate measures. Next up, we have the Galahad Armoured Infantry Squads. These guys are okay. They're fine. For a minimum veteran squad, you're looking at 132 points, but I imagine most people are probably going to take them as a 5-man squad because that's what comes in the box, and that's 164 points taken as veteran. They come with LMGs, which is a decent amount of firepower. Their damage value is 6+ because they're in Mark 1 power armor, and that's fine. They've got a range of upgrades. They can take preams, which is cool. So you can give them Panzerfaust essentially. And also the fact you can take them as stubborn and tough fighters. I like that. I'm not sure I'd take the preams because they're already quite expensive. But taking stubborn and tough fighter definitely appeals to me. Because stubborn means that you're less likely to break if you get hit by a big blast. Big blast of damage, I mean. And tough fighters kind of means they can Barney in combat and in shooting. The issue, as we will see in just a moment, is that I think they're overshadowed by the Mark 1 infantry. Galahads aren't necessarily bad. I just think the Mark 1s are a bit better. The one thing that the Galahads have going for them is they are not reliant on any other unit to get the job done. As we'll see in a second when we get to the Mark 1s, They kind of need Mark 1s and Mark 2s to work together. Galahads can lone wolf it a bit. Just before we get to the Mark 1 robots, we have got the Italian Bersaglieri squad. These guys are essentially Galahads that have to take tough fighters and don't have as many squad options. It's just an aesthetic choice if you want to go for the Galahads or the Italian Bersaglieri, essentially. One thing I will say is this. I do think, and this may change in the future, so if it does, it'll be interesting to look back on this video in some time. But if you look at the Bersaglieri models, they have power blades on their arm, a bit like the Japanese combat blades. I think if the Italian Bersaglieri could get combat blades, so they were Pen +1 in close combat, that would make them a very, very interesting choice in the British Army. And if you're watching this later on and that change has been made, then consider these a thumbs up unit from me. Until that happens, I wouldn't bother with them. I just go for the regular Galahads. All right, but let's get to the main stars of the show, the Mark 1 automated infantry. This is, along with the Mark 2 infantry, all the robots are why you're here. It's why you want to collect Brits. Mark 1 robots are a little pricey at 35 points per model, and you have to take a minimum squad size of 5, so 175 points for the buy-in. And they're a little slow because they only move 4 inches and run 8 inches, unless you get a surging dice, in which case they can start moving like a normal infantryman. They also have the first off the line special rule, which means that they have a -1 to hit modifier when shooting, so they hit on 5's base. But those are the only disadvantages they really have, and first off the line can be countered by just putting them near some Mark 2 robots, and when we get to that unit entry, you'll see how that works. Overall, I like the Mark 1s. I think they're tough at damage value 6+. I think them being fearless is a phenomenal ability. They come with computational systems, so they can move and shoot without penalty. You can counter the only real disadvantage they have, which is the -1 to hit modifier. That's it. They are slow and they are large, but there's nothing stopping you from putting them inside a transport. The large thing just means they take up 2 slots in a transport, but that's it. If you're really worried about how slow they are, bang them in a truck. Trucks are dirt cheap. Everyone can take them, and you can just take a squad of Mark 1s and put them inside, if that's what you're bothered about. But I wouldn't be bothered about how slow they are, because you just move forward 4 inches every turn, just dackering. And when we're talking about dacker, I mean every man comes with an MMG. So a 5-man squad of these things is putting out 30 shots. It is a little pricey, but at 10 points per model, and you have to upgrade every single model in the unit, they can take HMGs. Now, if you've got the new Mark 1 infantry that are available right now, that they only come with MMGs, I wouldn't worry about it. Just say the firing armor, piercing ammo if you want to have the HMG upgrade. No one's going to care. I do it. Everyone does it. It's fine. Because you don't want to get the old HMG robots. They are made out of metal and they are a massive pain in the ass to build. But anyway, would I go for the HMGs? Almost certainly every time. Nearly every single time. Because if you are playing, especially a pickup game of Konflikt 47, or you're going to an event, you're probably going to come across those Style Troopen. You're probably going to come across those Schreckwolfen and Ursus. And if you don't have pen on your Mark 1s, then they're an expensive unit that can't actually damage anything. But having 30 HMG shots come from a squad like this, which can move and shoot without penalty, and if they get into point blank, if you move to point blank and blast the enemy, that's 30 shots hitting on 2s. Even if they're in hard cover and they're hard to kill, that is going to be unpleasant. Very unpleasant for them to deal with. Throw enough dice at the wall, and some of them will get through. The big sticking point with Mark 1s, which a lot of people don't like about them, is they have quite a shite rift ability. Basically, they can expend an order dice and get an extra shot on their guns. Not worth it, because then they also potentially have the chance to kill themselves. They do that, like they take a hit on themselves with their weapons pen, especially if you've gone for the HMGs. That's terrible. You get an extra shot and everyone then might blow up. No. So I would basically never use high voltage except for in a desperate situation where I thought I was going to die anyway. Like if someone is charging me down with some Schreckwolfen and I know they're going to get me next turn, so I might as well high voltage before and go out in a blaze of glory. That's when I'd use it. Otherwise, I would never use it. Just keep them on the active rift dice and just blast, blast, blast. But then we get to the Mark II heavy infantry. These are big boys. They're massive models for one. And their damage value 7. They come with a light autocannon each. And they are fearless. Also, they are not as slow as the Mark 1s. They actually do move 6 and 12. They only become slow when they expend their rift dice. And then they go down to the same movement as Mark 1s. They've got computational systems. So they can move and shoot without penalty. They've got wide formations, so they can really spread out, so they're less susceptible to blast weapons. And they've got hard to kill. So they've got a 5+ save out in the open, or they get +2 to whatever cover save that they have, which is just amazing. It's just amazing. It's just really, really, really good. So I would always say that I would take Mark IIs in a list. The fact they come with autocannons, the fact that they're tough, they can't be pinned, they have coordinated strikes, they can shoot through their own friendly units as well. You can upgrade to having a heavy autocannon. I probably would do. The more pen, the better. You can only get 4 in a squad. They are 63 points model. They are very expensive. If someone can ignore cover, they can be susceptible to grab pulse weapons, but other than that, really, really strong unit. Quick side note, I realize I've made a mistake earlier in this video. I said that the ability for the Mark 1s to ignore their first off the line -1 hit penalty was on the Mark II datasheet. It's not. It's on the Mark 1 datasheet and it's underneath the high voltage rule. So I'll just read it out now. Furthermore, whilst a Mark 1 automated infantry unit has an active or surging rift die and is within 6 inches of a friendly Mark II heavy automated infantry unit with an active or surging rift die, it loses the first off the line special rule. So you still need to have them next to each other. You don't need to be wholly within, so you can spread out, but that's how you get rid of this. And this is why Mark 1s and Mark 2s work so well together. Of course, it is a little bit of an Achilles heel. If someone does blast your Mark II infantry, then your Mark 1s do start shitting the bed a little bit, but your Mark 2s are pretty tough. Moving away from the robots for a moment, we have got some more regular human infantry, and we've got the British Grenadiers. I really like this unit. On the surface, they might not look like much. It's a 5-man squad. They have to be taken as veteran. And they come with assault rifles, which is kind of cool, I guess. The reason why I like them, and the reason why I might run an entire army of them, is because they are not basic infantry. This means that you can use British Grenadiers to fulfill the mandatory rifty slots that you need to take in an assault platoon. So if you're someone that likes to run lots and lots of basic infantry, maybe you've got a bunch of bot action infantry you want to convert over to Konflikt 47, this is how you do it. I do think that every single faction should have a unit like British Grenadiers. For example, I think the Japanese Shiburu Rifle Squad should also be specialist infantry. I think there's a little bit of warlord favoritism going on here, and they always do seem to favor the Brits a little bit. But I definitely think that British Grenadiers are cool because you can run an entire army without needing to go down power armor or down automated infantry. Some people might think, but what's the point then? There's all sorts of different people that like to play Konflikt 47. Some people really like to lean into the wackiness. Some people like to get into a bit more grounded stuff. British Grenadiers are really good if you're in the group that likes to have a gritty, grounded K-47 force. As for what options I would give them, I would definitely give them a heavy Tesla rifle every single time because that means you actually get a Rift dice, and Tesla is good. The more Tesla you can get in your list, the better, because Tesla can ignore cover. I would also then probably go for the rifle grenades. I'd take them as a minimum size squad, rifle grenades maxed out, and heavy Tesla rifles maxed out, because that way you've got a little unit that's going to come in at, that's 99 points, plus 18, 117 points, and you've got pen on that unit, you've got Rift on that unit, and it's pretty cheap and affordable. These guys are almost the opposite of every other British unit you're going to come across. They're cheap and affordable. They are definitely a more bargain unit. Not quite as capable, but you can get a lot more on your list. If you want a British horde, I think this is how you do it. We've also got the Cerberus squad. These are the battle dogs, and I think they're very good. In some ways, they might be a little bit of an auto-include, because they're one of the only British units that get pen in close combat. Look at all the other units. They're all shooty. Lots of shooty, potentially lots of pen, but none of them can stand up to anything like Schreckwolfen or Ursus or even Style Trooper in close combat for longer than a heartbeat. Cerberus squads are your answer to things like those units, although I wouldn't recommend them going toe-to-toe. I think weaken the Schreckwolfen, then send the Cerberus in to finish them off. They're also very good at dealing with Totem Core, because Totem Core damage value 6, so they can bully some of your regular infantry, but Cerberus have got pen +1, so they can actually bring the Totem Core down to a manageable damage value. Really good at messing up infiltrators as well. Whether you're taking lots of Totem Core or you are just a Japanese player, Cerberus squads are definitely going to be a bit of a problem for you. They're fearless as well. They're fast, which is great. And they're relatively affordable at 107 points. And the War Dogs have tough fighters, which means they do get 2 attacks each. You can definitely... I would definitely take a squad or 2 of these. Either 2 3-man squads, or if you're running out of platoon slots, I'd take a 6-man squad as almost an auto-include in most take-all-comer lists. That covers your line infantry choices. Now we get into the weapon teams, and we've got MMG teams and HMG teams to kick us off. I probably wouldn't bother with MMG teams. I've said this in several overviews. They are just very susceptible to units that have damage value 7. And so you might find that although they're cheap, they're not really able to handle a lot of what you're coming across. HMG teams, on the other hand, are great. They've got an extra bloke in the squad, and they're pen +1. I love HMG teams. They can do some real work. Now, there isn't an HMG team currently sold by Warlord Games for the British, but of course you can convert them over from the existing US HMG teams, and a lot of British vehicles, like the Shermans and stuff, for example. I know they're American, but you can lend-lease them in, all that kind of stuff. They come with, on the sprue, they come with 50 cals. So you can use those weapons to kit bash HMG teams. And I quite like that. That is actually somewhat acknowledged in the lore for the unit. But that's enough of these fleshy meat bags. Let's get into some more robots. And we've got the automated mobile platform, the Lancer. This is great. This is great. It's 99 points. It does only have 1 wound. It's essentially a 1 wound infantry team, right? But it has hard to kill, and its damage value is 6. So in cover, that's potentially very, very hard to get rid of. It's got computational systems, so it can move and shoot without penalty. It's fearless. It's flak. It has first off the line, but we don't worry about that because it can get rid of it with Mark IIs. The reason why I like them so much is it's got 3 heavy machine guns. So the question you've got to ask yourself is, do you want 3 heavy machine guns but only 1 wound and 99 points? Or do you want 1 heavy machine gun and 4 wounds for 70 points? I feel like probably the Lancers are the way to go because they are harder to kill and actually have hard to kill as well. They're very, very interesting, the mobile platforms. I think a lot of people overlook them. I think a lot of people gravitate towards the Mark IIs and the Mark Is, but the automated mobile platforms are a bit of a hidden gem at the moment, and I do recommend you look into them. Next, we have the anti-tank teams. I probably wouldn't bother with either of these. The Piat's okay. It's quite cheap. It's got quite a lot of pen, but I probably wouldn't bother with either of these. They're just so fragile. They're going to get picked off in a heartbeat. If you could put Piats inside Grenadier squads and Super Bazookas inside, in power armor inside of Galahad squads, I actually think that would fix both of those units and fix both of these units. But until that can happen, I would avoid these for now. Then we've got another automated platform, this time the Hunter. It's got all of the durability bonuses of the last one we looked at. It's also fearless, all that kind of good stuff. I don't really like it though, because it's just got a light AT gun. It's a lot of points for a light anti-tank gun. Yeah, it's decent, but I don't really feel like Brits struggle for anti-tank. I probably wouldn't bother with the Hunter just because you're probably going to have your anti-tank serviced when we get to the mechs and when we get to the vehicles. Then we've got the sniper team. I like snipers in K47, but only if you can upgrade them. And the Brit ones can be upgraded with an anti-tank rifle. This means that it hits on a 3 because it's a sniper. It has pen +3 because you get +1 pen for a sniper shooting infantry, and then you get the pen of the anti-tank rifle, and it ignores cover. Really good at killing hard to kill units like the Ursus and the Shrek Wolf and the Star Trooper. You're going to hear me mention those units a lot. There's a reason you're going to hear me mention those units a lot. They're very meta defining, and I think sniper teams are a cheap way of doing that. Would I go regular or veteran? I'd probably cheap out and go for regular, because if you take veteran, you're getting up to like 82 points, which is kind of expensive for like a one-shot weapon. I'm not sure the durability trade-off is worth it. I think a cheap anti-tank sniper team is the way to utilize these. Have them in your list, put them somewhere sneaky, pop the occasional round off, and keep your opponent busy on other units. Put the pressure on them with things like Guardians and your robots marching forward. That's how you get your snipers durable. They're durable when they're not being shot at. Keep the enemy's attention focused elsewhere, and your anti-tank sniper should be able to pop off a couple of enemy models throughout the course of the game. Then we've got mortars. Mortars are good. I don't think they're overpowered. I don't think they're an auto-include. I think they are good. Whether you're going light, medium, or heavy, they all have an argument to be in your list. Light mortars are ridiculously cheap. You should take them as just inexperienced. Chuck them into an assault platoon, couple of extra dice, bit of extra pin. They can move and shoot and fire, no problems. They're good. Or they could just spend some turns zoning in. Light mortars are fantastic. They're very, very fragile. They're a bit of a liability in a kill points game. Other than that, can't complain. Medium mortars are that nice halfway house. They've got pen +2, which means they can threaten most units in the game, although some of the tougher ones they might struggle with. They can hit top armor and vehicles, so they can even threaten some medium vehicles and stuff like that. They are fine. I run medium mortars all the time in bot action, and I think they're fine in Konflikt 47 as well. The main thing about medium mortars is you can use them to try and pressure your opponent into moving. They might want to dig in and stay in a static position and blast you, and you can be like, no, move. And then that can cause them to have a -1 hit penalty. And then you've got heavy mortars, which are just the same as medium mortars, but more expensive, but pen +3. Most of the time in bolt action, I don't bother with heavy mortars. The medium gets the job done. But in Konflikt with those tougher units, I do think the heavy mortar has got a really, really good argument to be in your list. In fact, what I would probably say is if you are looking to put mortars in your list and you're looking for more static ones that can do the lob shots, if you can afford heavy mortars, you should go for them. If you need to save a few points in your list to squeeze everything in, downgrade to medium mortars, but heavy mortars over mediums. But of course, this being the British, we've got human mortars and then we've got robot mortars with the Bombardier. I'm not against the Bombardier. 84 points is quite cheap for a mobile light howitzer. Get it into point blank range, do a 2-inch blast within point blank. Could be tasty. It's just, I feel like the Lancer, the one with all the heavy machine guns, kind of outshines both of these. Because if I'm going to take a light howitzer, I might as well just take a light howitzer and give it a spotter. And then all of the arguments around the mobility of the bombardier and the durability of the bombardier kind of go away because the light howitzer can go behind a hill, can't be seen, and can just blast. Flamethrower teams, wouldn't bother with them. If you're going to take a flamethrower, put it in an infantry squad. That way, it's actually got some extra wounds. It might survive for 5 seconds. And also, you've got the other firepower, like the preams and stuff, that can all concentrate at the same time. Basic flamethrower teams, I think they're just too susceptible to getting picked off in a game like K47. Now it's time for the big guns, and we've got artillery. You have the usual light, medium, and heavy artillery options available. And like with the mortars, all of these are valid. It comes down to what budget you have in your list. Do you have the budget for a medium artillery or heavy artillery? Then I would consider taking those. The only thing you really need to take into account with artillery is they have a minimum fire range when doing indirect. And if your opponent moved quickly, they might get underneath that minimum fire range. One thing I just noticed is the light artillery team can't actually take a spotter in K47. That's interesting. That does bring the bombardier a little bit back into contention. I guess it comes down to, do you want two, well, what was essentially would be 2 regular light artillery teams or 1 bombardier? Because light artillery is very, very cheap. If you're going to be direct firing, I'd probably take double light artillery team. I probably would. If we're going to be direct firing, I'd rather have 2 shots and try and use my range as a way of surviving, because light artillery's got good range on it. That's how I would play it. We've got conventional artillery and we've got conventional anti-tank guns. Light, medium, heavy anti-tank, and super heavy anti-tank. I don't think the Brits really need these. I think you have plenty of anti-tank in your list. I think most British lists will find that if they need to deal with enemy light vehicles and mechs, their Guardian mechs will handle it. If they need to deal with anything heavier than that, then the Hornets and the Merlins will handle it. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of these choices. They're all viable, they're all solid, they're all okay. If you want to go down a more, indomitable human spirit holding the line against the darkness, if you're a bolt action player who wants to have lots of conventional weapons in your K47 army, no dramas whatsoever. These are all fine. Totally fine. I just think there are probably better choices in the mechs. But what about the M17 Tesla cannon team? When I reviewed this for the Americans, I was very positive on it. I thought it was a good artillery piece, and taking a couple of these in an artillery platoon, maybe putting them on a hill or in a forest and zapping away with them was actually a cheap way of getting heavy Tesla cannons into your army. I don't recommend them for the Brits. Controversial, I know. But the Brits don't have Tesla's gift. And Tesla cannons firing without a rift die is a bit shit. Sure, you could put a rift dice on one of your platoon commanders, but I don't think so. I think without Tesla's gift, I wouldn't bother with them. But now we get to my favorite part of the British roster, the walkers. Look, I love the robots. They're my second favorite part of the roster. But the British mechs they're the reason I got into the faction. I have loads of them, and I plan to get even more. And we start off strong with the Guardian Mark 1 Light Walker. I'm just going to say it. I think this is the best light walker in the entire game. A bold statement. Take it as regular. It's 105 points. Give it the infantry flamethrower. It's 135 points. For 135 points, you get a 6-shot MMG because it's arm mounted, and you get an HMG, which fires 3 shots, and you get a flamethrower. And you have fists, so you're good in combat as well. This thing can do everything. It can Barney against light vehicles and other walkers in combat because of its fists. It will beat a Vogel Spinner in combat, no dramas. It's unpalatable for Ursus and Shrek Wolfen to charge because it will auto hit with those fists, probably knock a couple of them out. It can do range. It's got volume of firepower with the MMG and the HMG, and it's got pen on its range weapons as well. Not the MMG, of course, but between the HMG and the flamethrower, you've got 2 sources of pen there. It is a single crew walker, so it has to shoot all of its weapons at the same target. That's fine. You normally do that anyway. And it's 2-legged, so it gets an extra pivot. And it moves 12 to 24. There are basically no downsides to this thing. It's great. And I say that every British army should include, I would say, at least 2 of these things. 2 of them are probably an auto-include for most armies. They're just very, very capable. The only thing that they need to worry about is mechs that are bigger than them, because they can only do superficial damage to vehicles which are damage value higher than them. The only other walker that can go toe-to-toe, light walker in its weight class, that can go toe-to-toe with the Guardian is the Japanese Scorpion Walker, because that's got an extra set of legs. So it gets a slight extra bonus. But the Japanese Walker is, nearly double the points of a Guardian. And overall, I think the Guardian is actually better than the Japanese one, and it's cheaper. After the Guardians, we have got the Jackals, and I really like these as well. They're essentially the same as a Guardian, except they don't get the HMG, so just got the MMG, and they can get the flamethrower, and they jump, so you can deep strike them onto the board. If you notice, this is the first jump unit that the Brits get. They don't get a lot of them, and because of that, I think the Jackal, it has a place in a lot of British armies. I prefer the Guardians over them, mostly just because I'm biased towards the Guardians. I just like the look of them. I think they're really, really cool. But I'm definitely not against the Jackal. If I'm being objective, I think a lot of British armies may find that Jackals become auto-include just because they have jump. If you want a jump unit that's got a bit more durability and punch than a Jackal, then the Brits get the Mud Skipper. It's kind of cool. The Mud Skipper is like a proto-linebacker for the Americans, and it falls into a very similar niche. It's a medium mech, it's got jump, it's quite expensive, brings a lot of firepower. It's got double HMG and the arm mounted, so that is 12 HMG shots, and it's got 2 forward-facing like automatic cannons. Cool. And it's got a hull-mounted forward-facing MMG. You can swap the HMGs out for bazookas, and you can do one of each. So you can have one HMG and one arm-mounted bazooka. It's not a bad idea. I probably wouldn't go for double bazooka, just because then you start losing a lot of volume from the Mud Skipper. But being able to drop down and just put 2 autocannons, a bazooka, and an HMG into the rear of an enemy vehicle makes the Mud Skipper able to take on pretty big threats. Almost any vehicle in the game. And if you wanted to just go for maximum DACA, then being able to drop down and do a lot of DACA is also very, very helpful. Overall, no complaints about the Mud Skipper. Think it's a great unit. Surprised to find it in the British roster, but a welcome one to be sure. Speaking of medium mechs, we have got the Percival Medium Assault Walker, also known as the Percy. It's a pricey bitch. 388 points. You have to take it as veteran, which is, whoo, kind of wish I didn't. Kind of wish I could take it as regular. Keep that points cost down a bit. It has reinforced front armor though. So it's armored down the front, which is nice. And it has computational systems, so it can move and shoot without penalty. And it has a heavy Tesla cannon. So this thing could move and shoot its Tesla cannon at enemy vehicles if it's using an active or surging rift die and hit on 3s. It's one of the few places you can get heavy Tesla in your army as well. It's one of the few places you can get ignore cover. I think the heavy Tesla cannon is a big selling point of the Percival. The medium rocket system is okay, but it only fires one shot. It's one medium rocket system that is spread across both arms. If it was two medium rocket systems, I would not complain about the Percy at all. I think it would be worth 388 points. Because it's only one, it kind of falls into a similar issue that the Bruin has. Except for it's much more expensive than the Bruin. Overall, I think the Percival is fine. 3.6, not great, not terrible. If you've got one as part of your starter army, include it, love it, play with it, have fun with it. Don't worry about it at all. But I suspect that there are some slightly more efficient choices. So if you're a more competitive player, and I know K47 is more of a vibes game, but there's always a bit of tournament play going on. If you're a bit more competitive, you might find that the Percival is okay. It's just not the most efficient pseudo-heavy mech you can get. Truth be told, if I was gonna take a medium mech for the Brits, I would take the Hornet. If the Guardian is the best light mech in the game, I firmly believe that the Hornet might be the best medium mech in the game. This is an insanely good unit. It comes with one hull-mounted heavy automatic cannon, not light like I originally thought, but it's actually heavy. So that's actually some punch at range. And it comes with 4 hull-mounted MMG. So the hull-mounted, so they are half shots, but that's still 12 shots. This thing is kind of like the British Kodiak. It's got half the shots of the Kodiak, but it does come with arms. So it can Barney in melee. Shrek, Wolf, and Ursus, those fast-moving assault units, they want to think twice before they charge a Hornet. In fact, it's probably going to go after them. Normally, when I talk about vehicles, I say you should take them as regular. Like I said before with the Percy, I wish I didn't have to take it as veteran. Not so with the Hornet. You should take it as veteran, and you should take it with computational systems. Because that way it can move and shoot without penalty. That way, considering it's a medium walk, so it can run 24 inches or move 12, how you play the Hornet is you get it into the enemy's face, and you just start point blanking everything. This thing is pretty much always hitting on 2s. Now, it's not fearless, so it can take pins, but even so, it's so good. Hornets and Guardians, when used together, are dominating on the battlefield, and that is no exaggeration. But if you want a big Makoff mech, then look no further than the Merlin. This is a spicy one. This is essentially the Brits' super unit. It's a heavy walker, so it's armor 10 on the front. It comes with a heavy anti-tank gun, so it can, at range, put the hurt on enemy vehicles. It also comes with a forward-facing hull-mounted MMG, which is 3 cheeky little shots. But the big one is it comes with twin HMG on its arms. That's 12 HMG shots. So it puts out as many HMG shots as a Hornet. But instead of having the heavy autocannon, it's got the heavy anti-tank gun instead. So some proper anti-tank punch. It's also got arms with fists so it can punch in combat. And because it's a heavy walker, it can take on pretty much anything outside of a mammoth or a Zeus in melee. And those are pretty rare vehicles. Most Axe players, if they're going to take a railgun, they'll take a Rail Panther rather than a Zeus/Wotan, right? And most Soviet players will only take the Mammoth if they're having a bit of fun, because it's not got that much. It's just a big tank unit, right? Every other walker, the Merlin can, linebackers, locusts, inagos, any other walker, it's going to basically beat it in close combat. It's going to punch it because it's a heavy walker. It's a very good advantage to have. Also, it makes it a bit harder for enemy assault tough units to mash it up in combat because it's armor 10 as well, harder for them to pen it. Another big thing is it does come with improved HE. So that heavy anti-tank gun actually puts out a 3-inch blast template as well. So it's good at doing anti-infantry with its HMGs and its MMG, but also the anti-tank gun is also good at laying down blasts as well. It's great. The Merlin's got computational systems, so it's like the Hornet. It's deadly when it starts getting into point blank range. And it's got the active rift enhancement Guinevere, which allows it to ignore any damage result other than a knocked out result by exhausting a rift die. And this combines with automated recovery, your army special rule we talked about earlier. So it ignores crew stun results natively because of automated recovery. It ignores every result on the superficial damage table on top of that, because the most you can do on the superficial damage table to like kill a Merlin or a vehicle is to set it on fire. It ignores that. It ignores becoming immobilized. Literally, unless you knock it out, you basically don't damage this thing. Super, super duper powerful. You have to have a rift die. You got to have one. But considering you don't have a rift weapon, you should have a rift die available to you. The Merlin is pricey. It's a premium unit. But there's a reason why I'm seeing a lot of British players have them as an auto-include in their lists. That just about covers all of the walkers, and you can see why I was so excited for them with the Brits. I mean, every single one is like a knockout choice pretty much. Even the Percy is great. It's just got stiff competition, right? But now let's move on to the vehicles, because the British vehicles are no slouch either. Starting off strong, we have the Tesla Cromwell. This is very similar to the Tesla Sherman for the Americans. It's a durable, mobile, it's actually very mobile because it does have the fast special rule, source of heavy Tesla. If you're going to take a heavy Tesla cannon in your list, I think this is probably where you do it. But I have a controversial opinion. The Tesla Cromwell has a little secret upgrade, which is computational systems. Now, a lot of people think it's very expensive to take computational systems on a Tesla Cromwell. After all, it's 324 points. You put computational systems on it, it's 339 points. You'd rather have a Hornet or something than that, right? You are correct. But what if you didn't take the main Tesla gun? I know. But what if instead you went for the medium howitzer? Medium howitzer is a big blast. That's a 3-inch blast. That's a big blast. Computational systems costs you 15 points. Brings you up to 340, like we said. If you then take the medium howitzer instead, you go basically back down to your starting point. About 304 points, I think it is. That feels pretty good. That does feel pretty good. You could even go for the medium anti-tank gun instead if you wanted to, if you're not bothered about the 3-inch blast and you think a 2-inch blast is good enough. That'll get you down to about 299 points, 300 points. And if you get it into point blank, it hits on a 2. And you are fast, so you might get into point blank. It's an experimental loadout. I haven't tried it myself, but I think there might be something there. Good news is your plastic Cromwell kit comes with all of the different... the Tesla Cromwell kit comes with all different options. So it's not a case of having to commit to one and finding out if it doesn't work. You can try out Tesla Cromwell. You can try out conventional veteran computational systems Cromwell. It's a hell of a mouthful. And find out which one works for you. But if you like big tanks, and if a Merlin just isn't big enough for you, then accept no substitute over the Churchill Meteor. It's a super heavy unit. It's damage value 11. It's the only super heavy the Brits get. And really, that's all it's got going for it. It's just a really big tanky tank. It's very expensive at 455 points regular. It's very expensive. It comes with a medium anti-tank gun with coaxial MMG. The medium AT gun has got HE, improved HE, so that's nice. You can replace, if you want to bring the price down a little bit, you can replace the medium AT with a light howitzer. I'd be sorely tempted to do so. I'm not sure a medium AT gun's really cutting it. I'd be sorely tempted to do so. You can also give it a vehicle flamethrower. In fact, I'd probably swap out the light tank gun with a light howitzer and then swap out the MMG with the flamethrower and basically balance the points out. The big thing about the Meteor is it has the Meteor Launcher, which is a corrosive weapon. I think it's the only corrosive weapon in the game, where essentially if you get the hit with the howitzer, you then get to add D6 to like the pen value. So the thing could be potentially like a ridiculously pen heavy weapon. The Meteor Launcher is actually a very good weapon. It fires a 3-inch blast template, so it's good at hitting a lot of infantry. But 3-inch blasts also mean it has pen +3. It has the corrosive D6 special rule. So if you exhaust your rift dice, you can add D6 to its pen, potentially making it a pen 9 weapon. If you're hitting top armor, which you could do via indirect, that makes it a pen 10 weapon. Maximum pen 10, to be clear. The average you're going to roll is 3 to 4. But still, the average of it being either pen 6 or pen 7 is still very, very good. And it gets that pen modifier, whether it's firing indirect or whether it's firing directly. I kind of like the idea of the Meteor Launcher and the Churchill Meteor getting quite up close and personal and just yeeting these corrosive shots into the face of things via direct fire mode. I think that's very effective. Overall, I actually quite like the Churchill Meteor. It's a very expensive unit, but it is a very capable one. Moving on, we have the M17 Tesla cannon emplacement. I would not bother with these. I don't think any of the emplacements are really worth it outside of some fun narrative scenarios. On a much, much, much more positive note, I think the automated carrier is kind of cool. Yeah. So the automated carrier, it feels like a upgraded version of those little automated platforms we were looking at before, you know, like the Lance with the HMGs and stuff like that. So this thing has got damage value 7+, because it's a vehicle. It's not an infantryman, it's a vehicle. That damage value 7+ is very, very valuable. You've got computational systems on this thing, so it can move and shoot without penalty. It's fast. It's one of the fastest automated units you've got. It does have first on the line, but you don't really care about that because you can just keep it near some Mark IIs. And it comes with twin autocannons. That's 4 shots. It's cool. And because it's got an automated crew, it can never be pinned. And it ignores all morale checks it's called upon. So it never has to take order tests. It just cracks on. Even if you like set it on fire or make it go down or something like that, because on the vehicle damage chat, it just ignores the pins. It's really, really cool. It also has an actually good rift ability, which is a rarity in a lot of automated units. When executing a fire or advance order, the automated carrier can gain a +1 modifier to its hit rolls. If it does, exhaust the automated carrier's rift die after resolving the order. I mean, much better than the other ones, like high voltage, where it might blow up and kill itself. So you could, if you're near a unit of Mark IIs, you could hit on 3s whilst moving with this thing because of firing solution with 4 autocannon shots. Now it's 158 points and damage value 7 is light by vehicle standards but good by infantry standards, but still not breaking the bank at all. But yeah, the automated carrier, massive sleeper unit. I think a lot of people think it looks kind of derpy, so they're overlooking it, but I'd definitely get a couple of those. Even one would be enough. But the last offensive unit before we get to the trucks and tows is the Humber Armoured Car Mark 7. And I'm just going to say it, I like it a lot. Might be one of the best armoured cars in the game. And you've heard me say that a few times. Best medium mech, best light mech, and I think it's the best light vehicle. It's affordable at veteran, and you want to take it at veteran because then it gets computational systems and it's got twin autocannons. You might think to yourself, why would you take this over the automated carrier? Because the automated carrier can hit on a 3+ thanks to the firing solution. And that's very true. But the advantage I see of the Humber armored car is it doesn't need to stick near those Mark IIs. Without the Mark IIs, I think the automated carrier isn't as good as the Humber. And if you're sticking within range of the Mark IIs, it's sort of slowing. It's kind of slowing the automated carrier down a little bit. If you think about it, it can't zoom off and take advantage of its 12-inch move because it's having to stay within 6 inches of the Mark II robots. But if you go for the Humber, sure, it won't be hitting on the 3s near the Mark IIs, but it can move and shoot without penalty, and it can lone wolf it a bit. If you're asking me to pick between the Mark IIs, the automated carriers, and the Humber, I do think they're equals pequals. I think the automated carrier can potentially hit on a higher value and can't be pinned. Very, very, very useful. But it is 158 points, and its maneuverability could be limited because of having to stay near the other robots. The Humber armored car is a little cheaper and is a lot more independent. And one of the things the Brits often do is they have a big death ball. The death ball of everything around the Mark IIs. But what if someone just takes those Mark IIs away from you? A couple of Vogel spinners, a couple of grab pulses, it could happen. And then everything starts falling to shit. I like the Humber because it's self-contained and it has good firepower at a good price. But wrapping things up, we have got the transports and tows section. All of these are decent. It's just about picking the right transport for the right job. If you just need to transport a small squad for a cheap price and keep them protected behind something that's damage value 7+, then the Bren carrier is perfect. If you want to transport a lot of units for a really affordable price, then the Bedford is great. Being able to transport 29 soldiers is very, very good. What's really good about that is you're probably not going to put 29 soldiers in it, but you can fit a lot of robots in it. It's almost, frankly, it's almost too high a transport capacity. Even if you took like a full squad of like Mark 1s and shoved them in there, it's only going to use like 20 transport capacity. So it's affordable at 44 points, but it's almost gratuitous overkill. I wouldn't bother giving it a weapon though. It only fires 2 shots. As for the Jeep, very cheap, and you can put up to 3 soldiers in it. So it's a very small transport capacity. I think that's for maybe your officers. It is kind of cool, the idea of like 3, like a Galahad infantry officer in there. That's kind of cool. Because I think they're heavy, but I don't think they're large. So you can get 3 power armor troops and stick them in a Jeep. It's kind of cool. However, I suspect the Bedford will be a popular choice for the Mark 1s. But I reckon most British players, if they want to transport, the Bren carrier will sort them out. The one fly in the ointment is that you could just do with a cheaper basic truck. So I mean, the Bedford, it's a bit overkill. I'd rather take something like the Studebaker for the Soviets, which is like 27 points. I can transport, I think it's like 12 or 18 guys. That's enough. That's all I really need. I feel that's all I really need. I'd rather have a slightly cheaper basic truck, but it's only like I said, it's only a fly in the ointment. It's not really a killer, and all of these transports are pretty functional for what you need. And that, gentlemen, is just about it. Overall, the Brits have got a lot of very good units. They've got a lot of good, capable mechs. They've got a lot of fantastic infantry, and they've got some pretty interesting army rules. The main downside of the Brits is a lack of pen in combat outside of those mechs. You've only got the Cerberus squads, and they could be doing a lot of heavy lifting. And mechs are better when they get charged than when they do the charging in many ways. And the other thing is that a lot of their units can be very expensive. By the time you've taken a couple of Mark 1 squads, upgraded them with HMGs, and put a squad of Mark 2s in there and taken a heavy autocannon, I mean, you're probably halfway through your points allocation just for 3 squads. And if you are leaning really into the robots, you're going to need a lot of Mark 2s, and that's going to eat into the budget. And when those Mark 2s die, because they're going to be a top priority target, your infantry could start struggling. So they are a very powerful faction. But I don't think they're the most powerful, simply because they have some fairly easily identifiable crutches that a savvy player will be able to take away from the Brit player. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on the Brits? How would you approach them? Would you go all in on the robots, or would you go in a more balanced direction? And what is your favorite British unit? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to go ahead and smash that like button. And if you want to see more Konflikt 47 content, then subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Redfield, 32, Jurgens, Miasma, Try Again, Bragg, RJ, Scorpion, Bonbon Vert, Lord Pryor, Nicholas Walsh, John Stubbs, Guardian, Varney, Sword, Fish Trombone, Pickalock the Forged. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.